Hi there and welcome to the Gazette's weekly Hockey Inside Out show. I'm Stu Cowan of the Gazette and I'm joined this week by my regular partners here, former Canadiens teammates and 1986 Stanley Cup champions, Chris Nilan and Rick Green. Knuckles, the Canadiens have lost 6 of their last 7 games. They've been hit hard by injuries. Can this team make the playoffs despite long-term absences of Kirby Dach, Alex Newhook, Patrik Laine, and Kaiden Guhle? I don't think I left anybody out.
Yeah, geez, I think they can. I remember talking last year, we talked about this team, and I thought they were going to be maybe nipping at that 16th spot all season. And, geez, now with all these injuries, it's next man up, right? And such a, key players being out, man. They can make the playoffs. If you look at this team and look at the injuries and look at the recent games where they've struggled, they come out of the gate great. But, boy, when they played some heavy teams, L.A., I was at the L.A. game, man, they couldn't get through the neutral zone most of the night. They couldn't get their game going. They shut them right down. They really at times had a little bit of a forecheck. They don't have a heavy team up front, right? They don't. And overall, they don't have a heavy team. So they rely a lot on their talent, their skill. And, boy, that can only take you so far. You look at the games they won and come out of the gate. Look at what the power play did. The power play, was when they, Demidov was on there. When they first put him on, it was operating at, 53% or some crazy number. And that has since tailed off. So they're not getting those goals. So, when you're playing those heavier teams and they tighten up against you defensively, Dallas, another heavy team, big team, 7-0. The Bruins, maybe not so big, but they battled, come up short again. And in the last game in OT, they bounced back. But in the end, they come out of there with a point. So the injuries, next man up, but sooner or later, you run out of men.
Rick, what's your thoughts just on all these guys dropping?
I think it's fair to say it's tough to get in the playoffs when you have everybody healthy. It's so, tight out there. Then you take those key guys out of your lineup that were playing so well and contributing, and it disrupts the chemistry of your line combinations. And they were thriving on that because we were speaking about how well they played together and how much they were in sync with each other. And now, not 1, 2, 3, 4 guys go down on the lineup. So you got to, roll the dice as far as how you want to put together a group that's going to complement each other in the way that they play. And it's going to be tough, but, they are going to be tested on, their depth to see if some of these kids can come in and fill a void and be given an opportunity to see if they can show something.
I think they're going to have a hard time making the playoffs for a couple of reasons. One, the goaltending has been so shaky all season with Montembeault and Dobes. And, Dach, Newhook, and Laine all out. Offensively, they're getting almost no offense from the bottom 6 forwards. You got Anderson with 3 goals, Evans with 3 goals. Gallagher hasn't scored all season. Veleno hasn't scored all season. I think that's going to be a problem. Knuckles, you mentioned earlier the power play. 0 for 17 the last 6 games. They had no power play opportunities against Columbus. It looks like they become predictable. They're just not shooting the puck. Is that the biggest problem?
Well, obviously it has something to do with it, but a lot of skill here. Guys like to make plays. They defer to other guys at times when they should shoot. That always happens. There are some players, and we played with one that he didn't pass the puck and shot all the time and skated around with it. But,
Who was that?
Well, figure it out. Obviously they should shoot more, but you got to be in position to shoot more. You got to be able to get pucks. You're in the offensive zone. You got to get some type of forecheck going and get guys open so you can deliver the puck. And again, up front, they're not overly big. Slav is in the corner there. Anderson, I get it. But overall, as a team, they're not a large team up front. And it's difficult to sustain a forecheck sometimes when you're in those shoes, especially when you're playing against those bigger, heavier teams that have a better defensive mindset.
Yeah, and Rick, it looks like they haven't been getting guys to the net. I mean, you look at Hudson's goal that tied the score against Columbus with Dobes on the bench for an extra attacker. Not only did he shoot the puck, but Slafkovsky was standing in front of the net screening. I mean, you played a lot of PK in your careers. What about the Canadiens' power play is making it sort of easy to defend right now?
It seems simple, but I mean, you put a guy in front of the net and you've got a defenseman who's going to have to play him closer. That's going to open up some other opportunities, on the penalty kill. And, the teams are well versed in seeing what the Canadiens are trying to do. They're trying the seam pass, they're trying the bumper play, and they are doing a good job in, trying to eliminate those type of plays that give them some success before. So, they're going to have to get back to the basics. And as a penalty killer, the toughest play is getting pucks to the net with traffic. And they're not doing a lot of that. They're looking for the pretty plays. The pretty plays aren't happening anymore. So you have to get back to the simple, basic, get pucks to the net with traffic. And a classic example with Slav the other day, with Hudson getting the tying goal, just traffic in front, across the net, because everybody's prepared for that seam pass. So unless you can do it with great precision and timing, it's not going to work because the players are getting sticks in the way. So let's get back to get pucks to the net, cross the net, and you're going to get some bounces maybe in your favor, because it's not obviously working right now.
St. Louis took Demidov off the number one unit at practice Sunday. As I said, they didn't have any power play opportunities against Columbus, but Demidov had 2 power play shots all season, and Bolduc had 9. I think that's one of the reasons he made the change. Rick, you're mentioning, video work in that. I don't know how fans realize, how when you're assistant coach with the Canadiens, how much time is spent on video work, sort of breaking down power plays?
It gets to be a grind, but you do have to present stuff with them to be aware of. And if you can keep it short and, identify what the opposition is trying to do, then it's a matter of execution and, on the part of the penalty killers. But, they're not playing as a group. They're not in sync. I always look at a tough play to defend against also is when a forward slides to the side of the net. And, they used to use it with Caulfield on his side, and they'd move that puck down to him, and he would take it to the net as a challenge from there instead of trying to make a pass back out to the middle of the box. And I don't see them doing that enough, of getting pucks to the side of that, even on the half wall, and attacking the net with a threat of a shot or a pass from there. They're always trying these high risk seam stuff, and it's not working. I
know, Knuckles, you used to like going in front of the net with the chances you got on the power play.
Yeah, I loved it. I didn't mind standing there. And that's back in the day when you got cross-checked like 9 times before they'd even consider calling a penalty. So, listen, I get it. And Greeny's right about having a guy in front. I see a lot of shots that come through the goalie. Well, he's seeing it. You have to get someone there. The other night, the goal, Slafkovsky got in front of the net and screened on that tying goal, right? He was right in front of the net. And they had great movement on that, good puck movement, good foot movement. And if you look at, and certainly the LA game, because I was there and I was really, they pressed them on the PK. They did not let them set up and get dancing around. And sometimes you can exploit that but they worked in unison. One guy was going, they were forcing the puck one way, and they were jumping guys. They never let them really get set up and get going down the ice, and they kept, breaking up the flow of their power play. And, that can be dangerous, but teams who do that well defensively, when they press on the power play, if they got it down, it's really difficult and frustrating to play against, and I certainly saw that in that game for sure. So, yeah, they've struggled. There's no question. They got to just keep going. And again, they're going to run into some tough teams here that, big teams, strong teams that they're going to have to power their way through it.
Well, after they went 0 for 7 against the Bruins at the Bell Center on the power play, I asked Lane Hudson, do you guys hear the fans yelling, shoot? And he said, not really, but he said, maybe we should start listening, though. So maybe that goal he scored against Columbus, maybe in the back of his mind, shoot the puck. Rick, it's been a tough stretch, as you mentioned earlier. Are there any positives you can take away from the last few games with the Canadiens?
I wish I could say yes, but, unfortunately, they're lacking a lot of confidence right from their goaltending, making the timely save that they were getting before. And that's a bad feeling that the team, is not confident that they're going to get that save. And when you're struggling and giving up that many goals, you've got some issues. And you talked about the size of LA, even Dallas for that matter. I find their defensive zone play struggling a little bit because the big guys are cycling the puck and winning a lot of the battles, and there's more breakdowns and causing a lot of good grade A scoring chances because of that. And they've got to dig down a little bit, a lot more to shore up what their defensive zone play is to help the goalie get his game back and to win more and more one-on-one battles. But they're struggling in that department. So to find a positive at this point, I wish I could say there is, but when you're having this type of slump, there's tough to find some areas that are positive.
Well, you mentioned the size of these teams and good teams they've been struggling against. I think as much it might be experience, Knuckles. It's easy to forget sometimes the Canadiens are the youngest team in the NHL by quite a bit. Have you seen anything positive you can take away the last few games, Knuckles?
Not a whole lot, to be honest with you. Think about it. What was a positive? Okay, they came back in Columbus. Mm-hmm. Good on them. They didn't roll over.
Done that a lot this season. That's true.
Yeah, which is a good thing considering the circumstances. Sometimes, again, when your team is affected by injuries like that, you can get, oh, poor us. Too bad. Without this guy, without that guy, we could surely use them instead of taking care of what's in front of you. So, they, the positives, not so much. I watch in the defensive zone, and this has been a problem last year, right? It was a problem last year at times. And we can talk about the goaltending all we want, but boy, when guys are getting these grade A opportunities, there's only so much a goalie can do sometimes. And, that's been a point of contention with them last year, and it still is to some extent. You watch them play man on man, D-men running up to the blue line. There's confusion. And once you're on the weak side, you don't keep that guy on the strong side. You don't stay on the strong side of him. There's trouble, and it happens. It happens more often than I think we'd like to see. That, and neutral zone. When the other team is in the change and we see them go into this 1-2-2, the guy stays right in between both defensemen. Like just stands there and he plays off them instead of when you play that 1-2-2, you got to favor the non-puck carrying defenseman and force the puck carrier defenseman to skate up the wall and make him go the way you want. I don't even know why they do that, because it doesn't work unless that first guy is so key in that. And I see them come up the middle of the ice. They make a pass right up the middle through the box, and boom, puck's in the zone. They're trying to get out now. So I think that's something they have to do better too. And with all these injuries, listen, you got to stay in the game. You got to give yourself the best opportunity to win against some of these teams. And that means you got to be really good in the neutral zone and the defensive zone.
Well, the first goal by Columbus, there was confusion there in the defensive zone with Bolduc sort of lost puck on the boards, and they just let the defenseman walk right into the top of the faceoff circle and score. Ricky, I'm mentioning Bolduc there. Start of the season, the kid scores 3 goals in his first 3 games. He's the new star in town. He only has 1 goal since then. How big of a concern is that? And just your thoughts on what Bolduc's done and not done this season?
Well, I mean, it is a concern because he got a lot of people talking and excited about his first start as a Montreal Canadien. And I think he's got away from what he did well before, and that was crashing the net, using his size and grit. And, that's what gives him success. And he's got away from that a little bit. And you can say what you want, different combinations, this and that. But I think an individual player has to know what he does well and bring it. And in order for him to be effective, I think that he needs to bring that back where he's much more involved. He's pushing a lot harder to get to the front of the net because they don't have a lot of guys that are getting there. And they need that when things are going tough. You've got to get back to the basics, and that's caused a lot of confusion in the offensive zone. And, get in front of the net because that's when good things happen.
If you stick to the basics, you never have to get back to them.
Good line. Good line. I mean, I think the bigger concern with Bolduc not scoring, as I mentioned earlier, when you're getting almost no offense from the bottom six forwards. I mean, here's a kid from Quebec coming back home. Knuckles, you think that pressure might have something to do with it?
It could. He don't strike me as that type of kid, but listen, Greeny's right. I saw him when he first few games there. He's bumping guys, going the net, going hard. He'd get that puck, he'd let it go. I haven't seen a lot of that lately. And you can talk about the pressure being a Quebecois, a Gaucher and Yahoo. We saw it with Jonathan Drouin here,
Mm-hmm.
I remember they interviewed him. They said, what about the French kid coming back home to the home province? And he said, yeah, I'll be able to deal with that. No problem. Oh, yeah? It's difficult here when you're that good Chenu. And, I just look at my situation when I came in. I'm from Boston. No one knew me. No one gave a shit. And Yahoo. I had no pressure like that. And these kids do have some pressure. They put some on themselves, certainly. And when things don't go well, how do you respond? And you got to get back to the basics, like I said.
Yeah, well, I know when Drouin first came here, I remember his agent, Alan Walsh, I asked him what advice he would give him as far as handling the pressure coming here. He said, have fun with it. It ended up not being a lot of fun for Drouin. And Rick, right now, another Quebec guy, Joe Veleno from Montreal's West Island in Kirkland, no points in 14 games, -7. He was a free agent until well after July 1st when the Canadiens picked him up for almost the NHL minimum. At this point, are the Canadiens better off calling up Florian Jacquet maybe from Laval than sticking with Veleno in that spot?
Well, look, in all fairness to Joe, he's trying. He's a good kid, and he wants to do his part, but it's not happening. To bring up a guy like Florian, I'm all for it. He's a type of player that would bring some spark. He would bring, probably create a lot of havoc in front of the net. He'd bring an ingredient that I think is missing right now. And, he showed it early on in the preseason, what kind of player he is. I think that it would be nice to see a kid like that given a chance to see if he can, set a little fire with the group and create a lot more havoc that they're missing now.
I know, Knuckles, well, when Jared Davidson got called up from Laval, his roommate is Florian Jacquet, and I think they were in the room together when the call came. I imagine you would love to see Florian Jacquet up with this team.
I would, and again, I don't think he's come out of the gate all too fast down there. He's got 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in 15 games. 42 minutes and penalties. What I will say, and I think is a good thing, that when the Canadiens called someone up, who'd they call up? Davidson, right? And what's that say to the rest of the team down there? That says if you're working your butt off, you're doing the job. What do you have, 9 goals or something down there?
Yeah.
And I think they wanted somebody there that, and not that Florian's not earning it, but a kid that has produced down there and has done something down there this year and is showing that coach down there that, yeah, he wants to be the guy to get called up. And then you get called up, there's something to say about that, and, if you just call a guy up because he has a name, and maybe he's not producing like you think, then other guys look at it and they go, what? The chemistry, it messes with the chemistry some, right? So I think we saw that in this last call-up. I would love to see him up here, regardless if he has 1 goal and 1 assist or no goal. I think he can bring something here as far as that physical play, that nastiness up front, and he can help Josh Anderson carry that load of being one of the guys that got to play physical up there, and Slafkovsky, who has to do it. But again, he's a little more, when you talk about the talent level, it's a different talent there. So sometimes he gets away from that part of the game, and he needs to stick with it. So, yeah, I'd love to see Florian get up here.
Rick, one young guy who's been really impressive, Oliver Kapanen, 7 goals in 19 games. That puts him on pace for 30-goal season. What's impressed you most about this kid?
He keeps getting better, I think. Every game he's involved in traffic. He's a great skater, smart player, and is hungry. And he's not wasting any time in making his contribution to what he can bring to the group. And I am really impressed with the way that he's handling his first year, and just his skill set is really good, and he plays hard. He's tough on the puck. He battles. He'll go to the net. He's got a lot of good things that are needed to be part of the Canadiens group, and a great kid that's doing a great job with given the opportunity, and better things to come. Even moving down and moving forward with him.
Yeah, he's such a smart player. Knuckles, before we wrap up this show, I got to ask you your thoughts on Jaden Struble's decision to drop the gloves right at puck drop Saturday night against 6'7", 255-pound Nikita Zadorov. Struble's giving up 7 inches and 48 pounds to this guy. He hung in there okay.
Yeah, he did good. He hit him a good punch. He's no pushover. He's a tough kid. He's strong. He's got a big physical frame, and who gives a shit how tall the guy is, honestly? If you're able to get inside and contain and control that guy, you can pick your way through any fight. I don't care who you're fighting. There's a method to it. And, thing is, guys don't do it enough now to get good at it. Mm-hmm. Some guys just stand there and swing away. I get it. But some nights you're going to get it in there against somebody who's he's going to connect with one of those, and you're going to, we seen, Abba getting that punch the other night, right? It's like, if you're going to, you have to fight smart. It's great to just go swing away. That's not too smart in my book. And you're going to get hit, and some night you're going to break your jaw, you're going to break your nose, you're going to break your orbital bone. You got to use your head. And, I give that kid all the credit in the world for going at him, for sure. And
I know you had a chance.
I was going to say, sorry, Still, I guess I'll jump in there and talk about fighting smart, and I'll go back to the guy that we're looking at here, Knucklehead. What would have happened if, by chance, he was to take a punch like Arbor, and, it hurt him. But what would happen if that happened to Knuckles would be he would wait until the player that he wanted to go back at was at the end of his shift, and for some reason Knuckles would end up on the ice and go right back at him to make him pay for the punch in the face that he had given me before. And I laughed down deep. Thank goodness it was him before me. But smart fighter that you didn't want to you didn't want to give him a punch and think that you beat him, because he's going to come back at you and he'll follow you home if he has to.
Yeah, I know you. I'm going to object to one thing. I never, and I will say this because I never did it, and I never did it consciously, tried to get a guy at the end of his shift, and I mean that. I not to throw some cold water on your statement, but I never did that. I just, whatever time, if I was at the end of my shift, I would, let me go take a rest before I fight. No, me, it was spontaneity. It was like, when I touched the wires, it didn't matter at the beginning of the shift or the last fucking second of the game. I didn't give a shit.
I know you've spoken with Arbor a little bit. Knuckles, maybe giving him a few tips. Have you had a chance to speak with Struble much?
A little bit, but listen. When it comes down to it, guys have to fight the way they fight, and I know Abba has struggled a little bit here, but I think that a lot of that has to do with hesitancy. Should I fight? Should I not fight? Has he lost his swagger a little bit? A little bit. And how do you get that back? That's a really difficult job. People don't realize how difficult it is because you have that inner battle that, shit, I'm not doing as good as I should. I should be better, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes you have these influences that are saying, don't fight, like the coach, maybe, I don't want you fighting here. So you're like in between. I'm not making excuses for him, but you got to settle that shit in your own head to be an effective fighter at that level. But Jaden, man, no, he's fine. He's a tough kid, and you gotta find your way when you do that job. But I give him all the credit in the world stepping in there with him. Awesome job.
Tough kid. I mentioned him after the game. I said, you realize there are weight divisions in boxing and stuff. And he sort of laughed and he said, I figured by taking on the biggest guy in the team, it might fire the boys up. Anyway, it didn't. And mainly they lost that game because of the power play. But kudos to Jaden Struble. He's got a lot of guts, that kid. Anyway, that's it for this week's Hockey Inside Out show. The Canadiens are back in action Thursday night when Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals are at the Bell Center. And then the Toronto Maple Leafs will be at the Bell Center Saturday night, which is always fun, especially on Hockey Night in Canada. We'll have 3 bonus episodes coming up over the next few days, so look for those. And in the meantime, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel.